Thank you. The next speaker will be Miriam ניסימוב. She's from Tel Aviv University, from the Center of Iranian Studies, and the title of her paper is Between a Rock and a Hard Place, The Jews of the Islamic Republic.
On the 26th of October 1978, 4th of Aban 1357 Persian calendar, almost 80 days before leaving Iran for eternity, Muhammad Reza Shah celebrated his 59th birthday. In a reception that took place in honor of this event at the royal court, the Jewish religious leader, Chacham Yedidia Shofet, amazed the high officials and the representatives of the other minorities that were present when he turned to the Shah and asked him to revise his decision to leave Iran. They were all standing there looking at me with amazement, asking themselves how a Jew dared to give advice to the Shah, writes Chacham Shofet. I must go. I'll be among the kings that went on journeys such as the one I am about to take. The journey that is ahead of me will be written in the history, was Shah's answer to Chacham Shofet. Hearing the Shah's answer, the respectable Chacham Yedidia Shofet burst into tears in front of everyone. 2 months earlier, in September 1978, the Iranian Jewish Committee, with Chacham Yedidia Shofet among its leaders, made a very dramatic decision. The committee decided to participate in a big demonstration in support of Khomeini and the revolution. The demonstration was arranged by the followers of Khomeini and was scheduled to take place on Eid al-Fitr, the Muslim holy day that ends the Ramadan month. In this demonstration, for the first time since the beginning of the revolutionary process, the Jewish Committee expressed its support for Khomeini and the revolution under the slogan, Yahudi Musalman Pivandeton Mubarak. O Jews and Muslims, congratulations on your alliance. In trying to settle the contradiction between the tears he shed upon the Shah's decision to leave Iran and the Jewish Committee decision to support the revolution, Chacham Yedidia Shofet explains, and I quote, in the Jewish culture, there has been a rule that the Jewish community in any land has to honor the will of the majority there and to praise the leaders of the majority. In the days of the revolution, it seemed to us that the nation wanted to replace the Shah. Chacham Yedidia's words are a useful framework for understanding the delicacy of Iranian Jewish life in modern Iran, and even more so under the regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran. My purpose in this presentation is to highlight some aspects of Iranian Jewish life under the Islamic Republic of Iran and the challenges it has faced. In 1978-79, with the advance of the revolution, the first challenge the Jewish community faced was to define and build its ties with the revolution and its leaders. The anti-Israeli and anti-Zionist policy of the revolution made this task very urgent. On 14th of May 1979, almost 4 months after returning to Iran, Khomeini, in his meeting with the Jewish spiritual leader, described his view concerning the status of Jewish community in Iran. He said that the Islamic Republic's attitude towards Iran's religious minority would be the same as to the other members of the Iranian nation. Islam would not in any way discriminate against them. In his meeting, he drew an analogy between Moses' struggle against the Pharaoh of Egypt and the Islamic Republic's struggle against the Mustakbarin, meaning Western imperialism. The Zionists, he said, cooperating with the Mustakbarin, deserved the loathing of all Jews for carrying out crimes against the Mustazafin in the name of Judaism. On the basis of this distinction, he established the difference between the Jews and a Zionist. Khomeini coined a phrase that has become the official policy of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Khomeini said, "We know that the account of the Jewish community is different from the account of the Zionists. ما می‌دانیم که حساب جامعه یهود غیر حساب جامعه آنهاست." Realizing the significance of this differentiation, its importance to the well-being of the Jewish community, and without any other real options, of course, short of exodus, during the 30 years of the Islamic Republic, the Jewish community has done everything it can to express its disapproval of Zionism and Israel. It has participated in demonstrations and carried signs with the slogan, "Death to Israel." And after any Israeli operation in Lebanon or against the Palestinians, the Jewish community has published its denunciation of Israel and its policies. In response to the 2009 Gaza war, the supreme religious leaders of the Jewish community, Chacham Mashallah Golestani Nejad, published a religious ruling that called on Jews to boycott Zionist products. In an interview with a false news agency, he said that the Zionists are not the sons of Jacob and do not belong to the nation of Moses, and their deeds are against the instruction of the Torah. Dr. Siamak Moreh Tzedek, the Jewish representative in the Majlis, the Iranian parliament, praised the victory of the oppressed people in Gaza and applauded the Islamic Republic for helping the Gaza people and facilitating their victory. In August 2006, during the Israeli war against Hezbollah, the Iranian Jewish Committee announced its willingness to hospitalize Lebanese and Palestinians that had been wounded in the what they called savage killing that had been carried out by the army of the Zionist regime. The Jewish community's consistent effort to draw a clear line between itself and the Zionists are challenged time and again by the remarks and declaration of the Iranian officials that mention Jews and Zionists interchangeably. These frequent remarks are well known and have been referred to and analyzed by scholars. Here I would like to highlight how the Iranian Jews respond to these remarks and declarations. In 2003, Haron Yeshayai, head of the Iranian Jewish Committee at the time, addressed an open letter to the head of the judicial system of Iran, Sayyid Mahmoud Hashemi Shahrudi, and protested the frequent verbal attacks on the Jewish community that appeared in the media. Yeshayai, a well-known film producer in Iran, published the letter in Ufora Bina, the committee's monthly periodical, which is circulated only in the Jewish community. In his letter, he wrote that the Jews in Iran had become the punching bag of the media. The media had replaced its duty to fight imperialism and Zionism and was trying to incite a religious war, claimed Yeshayai. In the letter, he pointed out at least 11 different examples of articles, headlines, and TV series with anti-Semitic content. As far as I can tell from searching the internet, the letter did not make waves or arouse great interest in the Iranian media, and moreover, the judicial system did not respond to it. In November 2005, Maurice Mu'tamed, that was the Jewish representative at the Majlis at the time, directed a letter to Ahmadinejad denouncing the publications of books, articles, and TV series that spread anti-Semitic content using the pretext of anti-Zionism. In February 2006, in a response to remarks denying the Holocaust, Haron Yeshayai wrote a letter to Ahmadinejad and addressed the claim that the Holocaust is a myth invented by Jews. He wrote that the Holocaust is not a myth, just as the genocide of people in Halabja by Saddam is not a myth, and just as the killing of Palestinians and Lebanese in Sabra and Shatila by Sharon's murderers is not a myth. End of quote. Alongside its effort to emphasize the differentiation between Jews and Zionists, the Iranian Jewry makes a great effort to stress its loyalty to the Islamic Republic. During the Pahlavi era, the ancient kings of Persian Empire, Cyrus the Great and Darius the Great, and the special place in the Jewish biblical history were used by the Iranian Jews to stress their ties to the Pahlavi monarchy. By drawing a direct line between the ancient kings and the Pahlavi Shahs, and by praising their tolerance towards the Jews and the other religious minorities. With the establishment of the Islamic Republic, the pre-Islamic kings were sworn off, and now it was the historic ties between the Jewish religion and the Shiite Islam that were to be the basis for building positive new relations. In a book titled The Iranian Jews, which is interesting to compare to Habib Levy's well-known history book, The Jews of Iran, in a book, The Iranian Jews, that was published in 1990 by Ali Asghar Mustafavi, a member in the Iranian Jewish Committee, the author referred to Shia culture as being an umbrella under which the Jews and the Jewish religion had found protection, while denouncing the Pahlavi era for being, and I quote, culturally one of the worst periods for the Jews. In addition, an important event to express support for the revolution takes place annually when the Islamic Republic celebrates its victory over the tyrannical regime of the Shah. This year, in an official gathering to mark the 30th years anniversary of the Islamic Revolution, Siamak Moreh Tzedek, that I mentioned before, the Jewish representative in the Majlis, said that the Islamic Revolution strengthened the possibility of brotherhood between the believers of different monotheistic religions. The revolution of 1979 was not a political, he said, and not an economic revolution, but a cultural and a religious revolution. And one of its most important achievements has been the transformation of society from secular to religious. Alongside this statement and declaration, which one can see as part of imperative of survival, there are questions and dilemmas that have occupied the Iranian Jews, questions and dilemmas that are not new and have been raised and talked about for a long time. What does it mean to be an Iranian Jew? What is the meaning of this hyphenated identity for Jews? And have the answers to this question changed following the collapse of the Pahlavi monarchy and the establishment of the Islamic Republic? It would be ambitious to try to answer this question in such a limited time, yet I wish to point out some facts and thoughts concerning these questions. The Iranian Jewry has undoubtedly gone through dramatic changes in these 30 years. On the eve of the Iranian Revolution, the Jewish community of Iran consisted of approximately 100,000 Jews, more than 60% of whom lived in Tehran, and there were large communities in Isfahan, Shiraz, Kermanshah, Abadan, as well as smaller communities in Babol, Ghazayeh, and throughout Iran. In the mid-1970s, the Jews constituted less than 2% of Iran's population, yet their presence in the big cities was very visible to the Muslim population. The late Professor Amnon Netzer estimated that the number of Jews in Tehran in 1979 was 60,000, which included a large number of wealthy families, of which 10% were extremely wealthy. Furthermore, the Tehrani community was characterized by a high level of education, with 600 doctors, 80 professors in higher education institutes. From the beginning of the revolutionary process in 1978 to the present, 80,000 Iranian Jews have left Iran, primarily in the initial years of the Islamic Republic. Currently, the number of Jews in Iran estimated by Iranian officials between 25,000 to 30,000, or approximately 6,000 households. The number of Jews in Tehran is estimated to be 14,000, in Shiraz 6,000 to 7,000, and in Isfahan 2,000. Concerning the employment patterns, there are 120 Jewish doctors, 80 engineers in different fields of expertise, more than 350 experts of various backgrounds, and 100 teachers, most of whom are employed in the private sectors. Almost 90% of the Jews are self-employed. Unfortunately, as far as I know, no scholarly research has been done regarding the impact of these demographic and geographic changes on the social and the economic characteristics of Iranian Jewish community in Iran. One of the trends that we can observe concerns the Iranian Jewry approach toward religion. As a result of the Islamic revolution, the Jewish community has espoused a more active approach toward religion. In the last 30 years, 45 Jewish religious books have been published in Iran. One of the latest projects has been the translation of introductory book to Talmud, the Essential Talmud by Adin Steinsaltz, which was first published in Hebrew in 1977. It is interesting just to mention that the translation was not done by the Jewish community, but by a Shia research center in the city of Rome. Since the revolution, synagogues have been, to a large extent, places for social gathering. There are 100 synagogues all over Iran, but most of them do not have active congregations. In Tehran alone, there are 60 synagogues, just few of them active. One of the challenges of the Iranian Jewry faces, one of the challenges that Iranian Jewry faces is keeping its integrity. Being a minority of less than 0.2% of the total population with weak community institutions, Jewish families have a difficult time convincing the sons to socialize only within the Jewish community and to avoid close social ties with Muslims. In an article titled How to Preserve Jewish Identity, article which was published in Ufuk Bina, the Jewish Committee's periodical, Mahyar Kohanbash, the head of the Jewish Students' Organization, confronts what he calls the Jewish community tendency to isolate itself from society. This tendency has become a taboo under the slogan, preservation of the Jewish identity, he writes. What makes me think that the Jewish identity is a taboo, writes Mahyar, is the fact that we don't ask any questions regarding its nature, and we never have defined it to ourselves. He warns that the Iranian Jewish community conservative attitude distances it from its compatriots and brings ignorance and backwardness and late maturity to the community. In conclusion, Roya Hakakian, the Jewish Iranian author, referring to the Jews in Iran, has written about hogs and doves. The hogs are here Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and see another Holocaust in the making, while the doves see the existence of Hebrew schools and synagogues in Iran and see no reason for alarm. My purpose in this presentation was not to stress on the hogs or the doves' points of view, but to underscore the complexity of life for Jews in Iran today. This complexity, I would like to emphasize, is not solely a product of Jewish life under the Islamic Republic, but also a product of being a minor religious minority that gone through a very dramatic demographic changes, a minority that lacks a sufficient intellectual environment and the political freedom necessary to examine, question, and dilemmas concerning its identities. Thank you.